What's up, everybody? Armchair Quarterbacks here for your Week 5 recap. This one we've got Waddle versus Cut My Team Into Pieces. That's Ken versus Daniel. This week, Ken started Tua Tagovailoa, Michael Pittman Jr., Jalen Waddle, Josh Jacobs, Dameon Pierce, Travis Kelce, James Conner, and Brian Robinson. What did you like here from Ken's team?
The main thing right here is the Josh Jacobs usage for me. So even though it wasn't a pretty stat line, it's only 17 points. Kind of got bailed out there with the touchdown.
Yeah.
I guess you could say touchdown deodorant, but let's see. 20 attempts, 69 yards, 5 receptions is really nice. Even though it's only 20 yards, but you got those reception points. So pretty solid stat line. Wasn't the best. But the fact that he's getting all this usage still, even and I believe Joe Buck on the broadcast was saying that they have all their guys for the offensive line from last year.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's just on Jacobs, you know?
Yeah, and
they have the same coach and players.
When I was watching this game tonight, because I had a share in this too, Jacobs, in the first half of the game, he kind of looked like his 2023 self, you know, kind of running into the pile, not really finding the holes or cutting a little bit late, and the hole closes up on him. But in the second half, he started looking like his 2022 season self. He was finding some holes here and there. He made some cuts that looked really good. I saw that there was one play where I think it was a reception for him. He caught the ball. It was a check down, and he broke a tackle. You know, he made a defensive player miss, and he ended up getting an extra like 2 or 3 yards out of it. So for me, it's something beneficial. It's something, one of those things where it's like, okay, now we're starting to see he's starting to get back into form from what he was last year. Maybe this can kind of snowball effect and pick up into the rest of the games.
So looking at Waddle here, he finally gets a touchdown and he has a decent game. I still wouldn't say this is a squeaky wheel game because he kind of has that touchdown deodorant. He only had 35 yards receiving. So we're still waiting for him to kind of join the party there with Mostert, A-Chain, and Tyreek Hill.
Well, I mean, this one too with Jalen Waddle, if you look at least this game alone, 5 receptions for 35 yards. That's what, 7, I think, average depth of target, 7 yards. And I think last year his average depth of target was like more than 10. I think it was like roughly 12 or 13 yards. So his target share, at least everything that he's catching, seems to be closer to the line of scrimmage.
I mean, he's due for positive regression there with everything. So, I mean, if I'm a Waddle owner, I'm kind of worried, but with how good this offense is, I mean, eventually they're going to try and get him the ball more.
Well, unluckily for the Waddle owner and unluckily for us, A-Chan and Mostert seem to be dealing with some kind of lower body injury, a leg injury. So that might help boost Waddle's production.
I would say more A-Chain than Mostert. Mostert's, 31 now? So yeah. A lot of these vets, just a heads up for you guys not to get too panicked if you see a questionable. Usually the older guys end up getting the Tuesday and Wednesday rest. It's kind of a joke in fantasy forums, you know, they call it Dude's Day or whatever. It's just a day of rest for them. The veterans, a lot of them just, you know, the main thing is Thursday and Friday. You want to see some of the veterans, you know, at least get 1 or 2 practices in.
Yep.
I'll just say one more big thing here is Travis Kelce. You know, at first I thought he tore his Achilles. I mean, usually when you see something like that, I mean, when you see a non-contact injury and they fall like that, they're either grabbing their knee or they're grabbing their ankle. And so you're thinking it's either going to be an ACL or it's going to be a torn Achilles. So the fact that he came back, not only came back, he had 11 targets, 10 receptions, only 67 yards and a touchdown, but I actually thought that was going to go to my boy Pacheco, and they ended up giving it to Kelsey there. But I mean, some of these big guys, these big tight ends, when you see them get hurt, I feel like sometimes they just feel like they're in the game, and if they're able to come back, you just see them gut through it, and sometimes they put up these phenomenal performances. So
yeah, definitely.
The fact that he was able to come out there was a good sign, if you're a Kelsey owner here.
Yeah, it definitely was a scary looking fall. But like you said, he went and grabbed the lower leg, so it was definitely one of those things where it was scary. But glad to see him get taped up, come back out, and grab that touchdown. Let's take a look at Ken's bench here. Anything left? I mean, the Justin Fields thing, but that was more so of a pickup, I think, for trade bait. I think he's going to continue playing Tua unless he wants to trade Tua and stick with Justin Fields. But besides that, nothing left on the bench, luckily. So let's take a look here and move over to Daniel's team. Daniel started this week: Kirk Cousins, Chris Olave, Cooper Kupp, James Cook, Gus Edwards, George Kittle, Tony Pollard, and Jerry Jeudy. What did you like from Daniel's team here?
The major thing I think is, you could look at the box score and say that George Kittle is, the highest scoring player on Daniel's team here, but the thing that you're really excited is just to see Cooper Kupp looking healthy.
Yeah.
There was no pitch count or anything like that. There was no limitations. You never saw him really struggling or laboring with his hamstring. He looked like his normal self. I mean, he ran in the same routes that he typically runs. He got the same usage, the same efficiency, which is really big. I mean, I mentioned it earlier in my game recap that I was just happy to see Christian Watson, look healthy now that he's on my team. You just want to see that. You ease them in, knowing that they're going to be fine in the long run as long as they stay healthy. So for Cooper Kupp, we know what he can do. I mean, he was up 60 yards in the first drive. It was clear Sean McVay wanted to get him back and
get him involved early,
get him going. So I mean,
it's funny to me. I just had a quick thought. It's funny to me you talk about Cooper Kupp running the same routes that he always runs. It's the same routes that my boy from, what was it, 2019, 2020, when he had the record-setting year. Remember Mike Thomas? You talked about him too, running all those slant routes and catching those short passes. Cooper Kupp is the same, runs those same routes. Cooper Kupp is definitely a better player at this point in time right now, for sure, compared to Michael Thomas. But it's just funny to me, like, they run the same routes, and they're both in their respective primes are just as efficient as each other in those routes, the slant routes and the curl backs and everything.
Yeah, so I mean, 12 targets here, 8 receptions, 118 yards. Man, he scored all these points without a touchdown. So
without a touchdown, yeah.
Without a touchdown. So obviously there's a lot of mouths to feed there with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams, but those are the 3 main guys. This is going to be good if they get a running game at all, and they're complete on offense. I mean, look out for these guys to be scoring every week.
Yeah.
Looking here at Kittle's game, I was joking in the chat. Maybe for some of you guys that don't know or that don't follow football a lot or fantasy, it's kind of a joke in the community that Kittle is known. He's notorious for, all of the tight ends are known for boom bust weeks, but Kittle is one of those, those boom busts. He's going to get you 3 points, and then all of a sudden 35.
Yep.
He's just one of those guys. Even look at his stat line here. I mean, this is nothing special. You look at all of his, going back to week 1, 3 receptions, 7, 1, and then 3. So he definitely got saved by the 3 touchdowns, touchdown deodorant as we call it. But you'll take it. Let's see. One more I would say here. Well, 2. James Cook. I know a lot of people are starting to worry about him. A couple weeks ago, they actually tried to get James Cook a touchdown.
Yeah.
And they got him a touchdown. I thought it was going to go to Josh Allen, but as soon as they did the formation, I knew, they're just going to try and get the kid a touchdown just for morale's sake. But so he has a quiet game and kind of comes back down to earth. I think the biggest worry for Daniel right now might be Tony Pollard in Dallas. Just the way their offense is looking right now with no more Kellen Moore and having Mike McCarthy here. So that's probably the biggest one to look at right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this one, unfortunately, Tony Pollard, I think both Dallas and San Fran just ended up pulling their starters early. Like, I think it was mid fourth quarter, they just benched everybody and started playing the second stringers.
I mean, I'm gonna say they didn't pull them too early. They left them in for a while. It was just because you even expect. Let's see. Let's pull up his stat line right now. You expect Pollard to at least
8 rushing attempts for 29 yards, 5 targets with 4 receptions and 35 yards.
So I'm looking at those receptions at that point.
Yeah.
If it's a blowout game or if he's coming from behind, this defense is amazing, but he wasn't even getting those dump offs. So, man, I look back to, man, this is really where you miss Kellen Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. Going back to the first week, you have 2 receptions, 7, 3, 3, and 4. You're definitely hoping
not
this
only
is tough.
that, his rushing too. You saw from week 1 to week 3 his efficiency increase, and then from week 3 till now it's starting to decrease. So we're starting to see kind of a up and down type of efficiency year for Tony Pollard, I think. And I think that's, like you were saying, that's a product of no Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy calling all the shots here.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I had him. Did I have him last year?
I think you did.
When I had him last year, right?
I'm pretty sure,
because at that point, everyone still thought Zeke was the main guy, and I believe on my winning roster when I won last year, my 2 winning running backs were Tony Pollard and Jerick McKinnon. So you have that kind of the pass catching running backs more. So even back then with Kellen Moore, it wasn't so much that he was getting all of this, bell cow rushing usage. It was mainly the receptions and how he was being played. It was those play designs where he was, being thrown in the flat or, something on the sidelines where he was going off for, a 30-yard reception. So the play calling is a huge difference here on how some of these designs, he's not getting those design receiving looks.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a different scheme for him this year. Take a look at Daniel's bench here, see if there was anything left. Let's see. He played Kirk Cousins over Joe Burrow. I think I would have probably made that call too here. But also, it was one of those things. Joe Burrow was playing up against Arizona. There was several fantasy analysts that were saying that it's possible for Joe Burrow to have his comeback week up against Arizona. So I would have had a tough time making that decision there. But leaving 30...
at that point...
Go ahead.
I was gonna say at that point, you look at Joe Burrow. You look at all his fantasy points. What was the last three times or 2 times where he wasn't even breaking 10 points?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, how much do you trust that?
Yeah. And especially with how poor his offensive line has been playing for him. It's been bad.
I'm going to say this. I got a question for you. With Jonathan Taylor getting that pretty decent sized contract. Was it the 3-year extension too? They're going to start to ease him in more and use him. But what do you do with Zach Moss if you have him? Are you playing him? Or are you keeping him on the bench?
Oh man, see, that's a rough one because he's been playing so good lately.
Exactly.
I think you keep him in. It depends on the matchup too. Next week he's got Jacksonville. I think you can play him. The following week after that, and the following week after that, Cleveland and New Orleans. Both are great defenses against the run game. I don't know if you can play Zach Moss up against them. I mean, when you look at his stat lines here for this year, he's been playing amazing, very efficient. But that's for fantasy. When you look at the player in real life, he's not extremely talented. Like this year compared to other years that I've seen him, he's definitely broken more tackles, have made defenders miss more tackles this year for sure. But I think that's also a thing because he's been the only player, the only back in Indianapolis, and he's trying to take advantage of that situation. But Jonathan Taylor coming back, Jonathan Taylor's a different beast. Jonathan Taylor came, what was it, his I think it was either his rookie year or his sophomore year, just came in and beasted, and just the whole year was so efficient and ended up being the RB1. So we know Jonathan Taylor can be the RB1.
I would say I'm not trusting Jerry Jeudy, and that's coming from a Broncos fan, so you could throw that out.
Yep.
Maybe do Jaleel McLaughlin if even if Javonte Williams is there, I'd probably start Jaleel McLaughlin.
Yeah.
From all the Broncos games I've watched, he's gotten the red zone looks the most.
Yeah.
The interesting thing here is if Saquon Barkley comes back, or when, that team right now doesn't look right. A lot of the teams know the exotic plays now that Daboll puts out, so they've kind of had a year to figure out his playbook. But he's got some decent depth here, especially because of the Cooper Kupp pickup late.
Yeah, he's definitely got some depth, some pieces that he could probably trade away. Maybe look at trading some pieces over to Michelle for the depth pieces and see what you can get. But also definitely got some players that once, Saquon comes back from injury, definitely he can drop a couple players here and there. Well, that was it for this week 5 recap here. Taking a look. Ken lost just barely by half a point here. Very close matchup. It's unfortunate. But congrats to Daniel for this win. It was definitely much needed here at 1-3. Good luck to you both next week, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.